So now we are going to continue with our government panel this afternoon, and I'm sure that we have a lot to learn from our government panelists as well as much to share with them. I'd like to introduce our moderator for the government panel this afternoon, who is also our Language Access Conference Chair this year. So Carrie Uesugi has 30 years of experience in social services, a wealth of experience coming from being an administrator for an intensive adolescent program, as well as also servicing a program that targeted developmentally disabled and the elderly, also clients of Child Protective Service. Carrie was also the patient advocate for Hawaii Pacific Health, Queens Hospital, as well as Maui Memorial Medical Center. Most recently, and dear to my heart, Carrie was with my office at the Judiciary as a program specialist with the Office on Equality and Access to the Courts, and she is sorely missed. And her work with us helped us provide support for our court interpreter certification program at the Judiciary. Currently, Carrie, as the Limited English Proficient Project Manager and Coordinator with the Department of Human Services, she has an opportunity to continue her experience in this area and offer support and coordination for the Department of Human Services efforts to promote meaningful access to their clientele who are limited English proficient. She is also a current member of our Language Access Advisory Council and represents a government agency on that council. And as I said, she is our 2018 conference chair. Carrie?
Okay, so hopefully you can hear me, and if you can't, just kind of wait. Oh, geez. Wow, thank you. Wow, thank you. Okay, so I hope everybody enjoyed their lunch and got time to network with people that they haven't met before. At this time, I'd like to introduce you to our government panel. Some of you have come after or during lunch and missed the first part of the conference. So I would like to begin introducing Mr. Afarak Barungran, or AP. I'm going to go from here on calling him AP. That'll be easier. He's the Executive Director of the Hawaii State Office of Language Access, otherwise known as OLA. Prior to his appointment to OLA in 2017, he was with DHS as a project coordinator for the Department of Human Services. He has also, before joining the LAP project, he was a litigation attorney for Domestic Violence Action Center and a staff attorney for the Volunteer Legal Services Hawaii. Next to AP, we have Major Kaneshiro, is the commander of the Honolulu Police Department's Communication Division, which is the largest public safety answering point in the state. His 32 years of service with HPD include working closely with other governmental and non-governmental agencies. During his previous assignment as a representative in the City and County of Honolulu Department of Emergency Management's Emergency Operations Center. Wow. During time of large events and natural disasters. So welcome, Major Kaneshiro. Next to him is Marcia Tamura. Marcia Tamura is the voluntary and private sector liaison and a member of the preparedness branch of the State of Hawaii Emergency Management Agency. She's responsible for the strategic relationship, coordination with the private sector and voluntary agencies. In collaboration with the Interagency Council on Immigration Services, she supported the development and distribution of more than 40,000 language identification and emergency cards throughout the state, which is great. Ms. Tamura also initiated the development of Make a Family Disaster Kit, multilingual poster in 18 languages. She is currently actively engaged in response and recovery activities for the 2018 flood and lava disasters. So welcome, Ms. Tamura. Last we have Mr. John Cummings. Mr. Cummings is the public Education and Information Officer for the City and County of Honolulu Department of Emergency Management. His duties include coordinating disaster education training programs, managing emergency public information, as well as media operations. He also serves as the department's official spokesperson, as well as managing the department's social media presence. He has presented more than 1,000 community programs on disaster awareness and preparedness, as well as overseeing the department's disaster education program. So he has more than 30 years' experience in emergency and disaster management. So welcome, Mr. Cummings. Okay, so just like before, in the previous panel, we are going to have 3 topic areas that we're going to be covering with the panelists today. Each panelist will have an opportunity to share information about their agencies. So beginning with AP, please describe in general your agency's role and responsibilities in responding to emergency and/or disasters.
Aloha everyone. So it's me again. So you cannot get rid of me that easy. So this okay. In the morning, I'll participate as the moderator at the LEP community because, like I say, I'm LEP, but now I have different hat on as the ED for OLA, within the government agency. That's why I'm here again talking to you what is my roles and what is duty of my office relating to the emergency and the access issue. So one thing, everyone here come to many of our OLA conference. So a lot of you might know what is OLA is, what we're doing, but also I see a lot of many faces here that they might not even know what is OLA. What do you guys do? That is the question when they go out to the community, that when they go out to the meeting, they say, oh, we never heard about you before. So you provide interpreter. So if we need someone who does speak English, can we just call you and you will provide us and you will pay for our interpreter? That is the perception that people still have with an OLA. Almost every week, me and my staff, we will answer the phone. Okay, I have Chinese client in my office and we need Cantonese interpreter. Or I want one, how will you provide for us? So, no, so you have to talk, you have to have the plan with your agency. Oh, but we don't know how to get that. We don't know who's gonna pay for that. How we gonna respond, how we gonna help access issue. Okay, that's why here is a good forum that to share experience, to share knowledge, to learn more about my agency as well as SPD, HIEMA, and City and County of Honolulu, what our responsibility. So going back to what my office do, we have what we are oversight and central coordination of the resource for the government and non-profit agency, not non-profit, and state-funded agency. And you can say state fund because we have only jurisdiction under state law. We don't have jurisdiction under federal law, but we have the same purpose. So we want to ensure that the LEP community have fully access to when they come into contact with the government-funded agency. So when they're talking about coordination, so what does coordination mean? Go back to the same question that same sample that I explained to you when people call us, okay, I need Cantonese interpreter. So what we do, we just, okay, if you don't know how to get it, that's fine. We will work together from now. If you don't have, so do you have any coordinator in your department? So just go talk to them and then find out what type of resource. If not, okay, I will guide you, coordinating with you, okay, where to look at, how to locate, and helping you to get one. So we might not be able to pay for you, but we can direct you to the right direction, coordinating you how to make arrangement, how to obtain one, or what type of resource that is available during the emergency and non-emergency. So not just that, and pretty much, and now during the emergency, me, Carrie, and Department of Human Services, and HIEMA, they have my cell phone number because, like I said, we are here to coordinate the resort, helping every agency to ensure that they have access or know how to obtain an interpreter. And why is my cell phone is out there? Because we have only 3 staff in my office. So that's why I go by default. That kind of program that I'm helping, even though we're not the first responder, we're not the one who provide direct services to the community, but we're here to help you to get the resource that you need to serve the LEP communities.
Thank you. Okay, so Major Kaneshiro, same question. Please describe in general your agency's role and responsibilities in responding to emergency and/or disasters.
Hi, good afternoon. Is it on?
It should on. It's green.
Oh, there. Okay, can you guys hear me?
No.
AP, try to keep them noise.
Okay. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Gerald Kaneshiro from the Honolulu Police Department. My current assignment is in the communications division right now, as Kara had mentioned. But as far as agency-wise, we are the primary law enforcement jurisdiction for Honolulu. Each island has its own police force, but for us, Honolulu Police, we pretty much have the entire island to include state and some federal properties too. So we are the primary. So as far as us, we handle all types of calls, 911 service calls for police services. So any kind of criminal acts, traffic accidents, to even some, as far as, document servicing, we do a lot of those. And we do have a lot of, our roles are very diverse. But, as far as responding to accidents or any kind of emergencies, we have resources that we can tap into as far as, for servicing people with different languages. We have that. We have our text to 911 services that we have for people that's hearing impaired, speech impaired, or even people that's on limited English. They can text at least some messages to us. So at least we can get them help. And also, we've gone into this other partnership with Smart 911, and that one also too. And that one, it kind of goes a little bit more comprehensive, where it identifies people. If you have a household and you have somebody like, let's say, elderly parents that don't speak English, you can list them down on that. So that'll really help us, when we have to respond to your home, even for fire. If it's a fire event, like say the home is on fire and you have some special needs person in there, it can identify that. So that's why we have those things in place. But as far as everyday things, we have resources within the department that can handle simple things like interpretation. We go to a traffic accident, a Korean-speaking person. We have people on any given day, probably an officer that can speak Korean, that can at least get us enough information where we can at least handle the case. Like we have translation services where, we, in a higher level situation where you need things to be prepared for court documents, we have that. So we have all these different resources. So whether it's emergency or outside of the regular course of duty, we have resources. And, so we're able to handle those things on a given day.
Thank you. Ms. Tamura, same question. Please describe in general your agency's role and responsibilities in responding to emergency and/or disasters.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much for inviting me, AP. It's always nice to have lunch. I tell everybody, when you're a state worker, it's a good day when you get lunch. It's a better day when you're eating your lunch not in front of your computer. So it's really nice to have a great lunch. So thank you, and it's really nice to see so many friends, people I've known for years now working in this area. We say every disaster is local at the state level, and so we are here as a state agency to support the counties in terms of what their needs are. And so we are a convener agency where we bring together a number of our state partners like OLA or the Department of Human Services, Department of Health, and as well as the non-governmental organizations like VOAD, Voluntary Organizations Active in Disasters, Catholic Charities, Salvation Army, and a number of other organizations that you're very familiar with, like American Red Cross. These NGOs are there voluntarily. They're not necessarily volunteers, but they're supporting our agency and the work that emergency responders and emergency management are doing. The other sector that I work with is the private sector, and so our agency convenes sometimes the private sector to have those conversations in terms of what are we going to do in terms of responding and recovery activities. And the other thing that we do is, the reason we do a lot of this is so that there is coordination to reduce the duplication of services and efforts. Because oftentimes the counties is focused on saving lives and property, and so are we. And so and we have limited resources as government, as well as our nonprofit sector also has limited resources. So by coordination, we feel that this is the best way to reduce that risk of duplication. Our agency is also the agency that that works with the governor's office regarding the disaster proclamations, which can activate activities such as the National Guard being deployed to respond to different disasters, such as how they're doing right now for Kauai's flooding and for the lava flow on the Big Island. The other thing that we also are working with the governor's office on is the presidential declarations. We assist the governor's office to make that request for the presidential declaration for what is called public assistance, which is will go out and repair infrastructure. So if something happened to a roadway or a bridge, that's called public assistance. I know that's not how Department of Human Service looks at public assistance, but that's our version in emergency management of public assistance. And individual assistance is the work that's being done right now by FEMA on both Kauai and Oahu and on Hawaii Island for the lava flow. And this is where individual households can apply to FEMA for assistance. Without that presidential declaration, they cannot apply for this assistance. This is a grant or a cash assistance. The maximum is $34,000. The national average is $4,000 in terms of distribution. So you can see that by bringing in these government resources, federal government resources, we can assist survivors. Now, $34,000 or even, $4,000 is not going to make anybody whole. So, it's important that we ask you, the trusted resources, and that's part of our job is in terms of being a convener agency, is to then get the word out for households to be better prepared, your target populations. And so that's one of the roles that we play in emergency management. John?
Thank you. Mr. Cummings, same question.
Good afternoon. How are we doing today? Okay. Again, my name is John Cummings. I'm with the City and County of Honolulu, the Department of Emergency Management. So we are the coordinating agency whenever we have a large natural or human-caused disaster that impacts the City and County of Honolulu itself. So our job, and working with the fire department, police department, is to take care of the residents that live on this island within our county. Now, within the state, each of the other counties, Hawaii County on the Big Island, Maui County, which includes Molokai and Lanai, and Kauai County, has an office similar to ours with the same mission. We're responsible for making sure that our residents that live here and our visitors are aware of any disasters and have the emergency information they need to react and respond to those disasters and to be safe. We also spend a lot of time doing preparedness and education programs. That's out of our office too. We train and educate our residents. We provide materials for that too. And we also do a lot of public presentations for different groups and organizations. And thinking back over my time with the agency, we've done a number of them for groups that are non-English speaking, especially in the Chinatown district area. We do that quite often. We, as much as possible, try to make our information available to everyone. And that's to our English-speaking residents, our non-English-speaking residents, and also those who have a disability who can't, hear or receive information like that. Just recently, within the last few years, we have added to our Emergency Operations Center during our press briefings and any of our emergency information conferences a ASL component, because we realize the importance of getting the information out to everyone. And even if we do a press conference in the field now, we bring a person with us. So we're trying our best to get our information to everyone, right? When we activate our office in response to an emergency, that's where the mayor will come, the managing director, sometimes the police chief, the fire chief, EMS chief. But basically everyone in our office at that time, we want them there so that we can work with them to coordinate how we're going to take care of our residents on this island here when we have an emergency. And that could be something that's affecting just a community or the entire island. For example, if we have a hurricane or a tsunami affecting us here, right? So our job is to utilize all of our city resources to do that job. So a lot of our city departments have other jobs that they don't normally do. A good example is our parks and recreations folks that are at our parks. They take care of the parks, they run our programs, but they're also key to operating our shelters, working with our state DOE schools to provide staffing for that. So in essence, everyone in the city and county can become a disaster responder if we have a really bad disaster. So we train our folks to be shelter operations managers and also to do like damage assessment after disaster strikes. We're also responsible for getting emergency information out. First off, through our siren warning system. I think some of you folks have heard that. We have a very robust siren system on the island right now. We tested at 11:45 a.m. the first working day of every month. We didn't do it today because of the repatriation of the Korean War remains. But again, that's one of our methods of saying, hey, something's happening on this island we want you to be aware of. Turn on the TV and radio and get information. We also utilize a lot of social media now for emergency information, as well as traditional methods of TV and radio. Let me see. We also work outside of our city agencies. Depending on the size and scope of the disaster, we'll have representation in our office from our state folks, from Hawaii Emergency Management Agency, from the Red Cross, other non-government agencies. It just depends on what's going on at that time. But we want the people in our office that we need to work with so we can get the assistance out to what's happening and, again, be able to assist our residents in the county here when we have that disaster that's either incoming or occurring at that time. And lastly, we're also responsible for identifying and providing safe places of refuge or shelter for our residential population here on Oahu if we have the hurricane coming, or if we have the post-tsunami event where folks have evacuated the shoreline, they can't go home. Yeah. We're responsible for that too. Because it really is, as a county, it falls to the mayor to take care of his residents, and we're kind of the mirror of that to make that happen, utilizing all of our city resources as much as possible. If we need help, we go to our state partners. If all the counties need help, as Marcia said, they go to the federal side of the house and request a federal declaration to get federal assistance in. That could be all branches of the military if we need them, anything else from the federal government. But as Marcia mentioned, disasters are local. They start and end at the local county level. And we plan and prepare for that. And a big part of that, of course, also is you folks as residents here being prepared and aware and knowing what you have to do when that disaster comes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cummings. For our next question, AP, we'll start with you again. Please describe your existing programs and how the roles and responsibilities are coordinated among other community entities.
Can everyone hear me? So it's work now. Okay. So one of OLA function, so we have to provide technical assistance and training to state and state fund agency in preparing land access plan. So what we do, our roles, like I say, we want to make sure every agency have a plan, and the plan that's working. It's not, I create a plan before. Some agency or some entity, they have a plan, but it's created by people who are upper level, and the people, the frontline worker, they don't even know the plan is existing. They don't know how to apply. They don't know how to identify how to use that. So my agency is, we're working with a coordinator from each department. We are reviewing their plan and also make sure we provide technical assistance. Okay, what is missing in the plan, and how we can coordinating the resource. Like Marsha say, a lot of time we have duplicative. We have some program that every department have the same program. Every department have the same resort. Every department is redundant. Is anything that we can coordinating to make sure we work together and to share the resource. In that case, everyone go back to the same in the morning session. We know what is available, so we don't have to invent the new wheel. We can just use what is existing program that is, if it's good, we make it better. If we don't have anything, we just working together to create one that can serve our community. And among coordinating among the agency, like I say, because we have very small staff, what we do, I also invite myself to many group, to many meeting. I'm part of too many council. Sometimes I forgot. So they have to call me, okay, you have to come to my meeting. So that's kind of one thing that I would create for myself, that invite yourself. If they might not know you. They might, from today before, a lot of you might not know me, but feel free to invite me if you like us, because it's about outreach. It is about how to get to know you and how do you get to know me. So we know, because we might not know what do you have to offer. So by the connection card, that I'll go back to look at it and see and incorporate it into my program, into my existing program, to see how to connect, how to work with you guys, and how to that we can share the resort among our communities.
Thank you, AP. Let's see, Major Kaneshiro, same question. Please describe your existing programs and how the roles and responsibilities are coordinated among other community entities.
So basically, like I had mentioned earlier, we have our own internal mechanism to deal with people with limited English proficiency. But also too, we rely a lot on for our community outreach, especially in the patrol districts, in the patrol elements. We have different communities that's out there that's, might be like the Chinatown area. But for our areas, we rely a lot on like I have some individuals here from the community policing team that's in this East Honolulu area. And they're kind of like our outreach people that go to these different pockets of community that, may not understand what we do. And we want to bridge that gap. And like, I had, like he had mentioned, you want to identify a trusted messenger. And that's what they do. They go out and they find this trusted messenger so then we can work with these groups to kind of bridge that gap. Because I think that's an important part of our job, is to really bridge those gaps. And that's what they do on their end. So they're the ones they're kind of like our eyes and ears out there when we're not responding to things. If we identify there's certain gaps in areas, then that's where they go out and they'll kind of reach out to the different leaders in the community. And also too, for like a lot of us, we work closely with, we work in my previous role with Marsha and with John in state and the city level, doing outreach, because in times of preparedness too, that's where you really want to get to this group, get to the people is to prepare. How do you want to prepare? Because individual preparedness is going to be key, because when we hit that button, when we say that it's coming, then we want people to know where to go and what to do, not be calling, especially in a 911 call centers. We cannot afford to have our phones inundated with calls on what to do. So that's why we rely really heavily on these guys, and then even the community policing guys, to go out and just do all these outreach and, just have individual preparedness done. And, also too, we have a lot of other non-governmental partners, like, I see VASH in the house, they're a terrific resource, especially in the, for our tourist industry. I mean, because we don't know what to do, with these people that's from, from a different country. So we just, it's great partnership that we do, just, call them, they respond, great, they'll provide for them whatever they need. So that's why we're trying to partner up with more of these also to private entities, because we rely on a lot, it's because it's just us up here, but, it's really a lot of everybody to kind of keep everything together, especially in a time when it's very stressful, it's real dynamic. And at least we know who to call, who to rely on, what this agency can do for us or help them help this community that's, don't know what to do because of their, their situation. So, that's why we're still trying. It's an ongoing process. It's not an easy thing because like we saying the diversity is even more diverse today. And, there's a lot of things that we don't know yet and we're still learning. And I think it's through these education sessions that we really will find out. And so, we'll definitely work more along with all, along with you guys to really figure out how we can really manage this.
Thank you. Let's see, so next is Mr. Mura, same question.
So in the emergency management world, we talk about the 4 phases of disasters, which is preparedness, which is where we are today on Oahu. But, we are also get into response, which is where the Big Island is right now. And then in terms of recovery, which is where Kauai and Oahu and Lahaina is right now, and then we're looking also at mitigation. So one of the phrases we also say in emergency management is the time to exchange business cards is not during the disaster. And so kind of like AP, I invite myself to a number of meetings and try to make friends, right, Josie? Ahead of time. And so I have a better understanding of how you and your organization functions, and then what are the limitations or the gaps that you see, and then working through that, then we can help maybe inform about some of the programs that we have. So one of the things that we usually try to do during what we call blue sky periods is, convene, again, different organizations to exercise our emergency plans so that we can test our planning as to whether or not there are gaps even on our end in terms of planning assumptions. Did we include an organization that we hadn't before? Did we include somebody from the private sector? So we can, sometimes we'll have, like last year we had a port security, seaport exercise, and we invited Matson, Young Brothers, Peisha, and so that, because we are not the experts and subject matter experts on the port, they are. So having them there was really helpful to tell us whether or not our planning assumptions were good and whether or not the plan could be effectively executed. So those are some of the things that we try to do. And same thing with sheltering, right? We've had shelter exercises talking about how are we going to do this and how are we going to execute it. So those are some of the things we look at. The other things we do during Blue Sky is also on mitigation. So knowing how an organization is, what their concerns are. Like I talked to one nonprofit, they have solar panels, and so that's been terrific. But all their equipment then is running off these solar panels. But unfortunately, in the event of a disaster, they don't have a generator to kickstart the system. So then what's going to happen to all their equipment? They're basically going to be unusable. So we started talking about what are the mitigation things that we could do to reduce that from happening. And so having that understanding on the state side is really helpful, because we also know then who we can depend on in terms of agencies. Do you have a backup communication system, right? Do you have a satellite phone? Do you have other kinds of communication capability? Or like John has ham radios in his office as well as in our office, and we can then communicate through radio if necessary. But those are some of the things that we try to get out, this messaging during what we call blue sky periods, and coordinate with community organizations. Same thing with the limited English proficient population groups. I try to work with the Interagency Council on Immigrant Services, because they're the ones who have the agencies who are reaching out to those target populations, like legal aid, and so legal aid as well as the Department of Health Public public health nurses and Catholic Charities, Child and Family Service, they all distribute our language identification emergency cards. They've also been instrumental in helping us distribute our Make a Family Disaster Kit poster. I also work with the private sector, like Outrigger Hotels has distributed our poster to all their employees as well, because again, there are certain industries that have a sizable limited English proficient population. So we would not only want to work with those that are NGOs, but also work with the private sector to get our messaging out. Gerald mentioned the visitor industry. So one of the things we did was we did an emergency terminology booklet, and we gave that to the Department of Transportation. So they've distributed those through their airport system, so that again, we have put the word out to provide these tools during blue sky periods by coordinating and getting support from organizations like the City and County's Department of Transportation Services, Department of Health. And it's through this collaborative effort that we can then create these tools that we can then distribute. So, but again, it's creating this network that I think is helpful with our community entities.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mura. Mr. Cummings, same question.
Okay, I just want to focus a little bit on our public education programs. We have a very active program, Speakers Bureau. There's about 4 of us in the office that provide briefings and trainings to community groups. Pretty active during hurricane season, as you can imagine. In fact, I have one tomorrow for a senior group out in Waipahu. We do these programs 2 or 3 times a week. Generally, an organization will call our office up and say, could we have a speaker to talk about disaster preparedness? We'll meet that need there. So we provide that to the community. It's free of service. We also do programs in the evenings and at night. We also do larger community event programs. This past weekend, we had our state's largest preparedness event at Pro Ridge Shopping Center called Ready to React. And we had over 31 different county, state, and non-government agencies at Pro Ridge providing free preparedness information. And quite a bit of information was in multiple languages too, so I was really proud to see that there too. We have a course we teach through our office called Community Emergency Response Team, or CERT. And CERT training is a 20-hour course, and it takes a group like yourselves, maybe your office or your organization or your nonprofit, and basically it teaches you how to be responders within your own community. And that could be within your own LEP community. The first 2 days of the course are basically book work. It teaches you about first aid, disaster response, preparedness, how to use a fire extinguisher, how to do light search and rescue. And then the last day of the class, we actually take you up into Diamond Head. We utilize an old World War II bunker, and we set up smoke machines, strobe lights, and we bring volunteers in, and you get to test your skills. Now, we have provided this training class, I think at least twice within the last 5 or 6 years, to non-English speaking groups. They provided an interpreter. And it takes a little longer, because some of the concepts, it takes a little bit more time to explain it out. But if any of you wanted to pursue that training for your groups in your own language, we'd be happy to do that. We're always making that available. We also, about 4 or 5 years ago, started taking a lot of our primary disaster preparedness one-sheet information sheets and started producing them in multiple languages. So I have some samples up here right now. Now, these are available on our website right now. We're also working with JN Productions to revamp all of them again, get a little more updated look, and again, put them into, right now we're looking at 9 primary languages in Chinese Simplified, Chinese Traditional, Chukese, Ilocano, Japanese, Korean Marshallese, Tagalog, and Vietnamese at this point. So we're hoping to have those new preparedness information sheets available probably by the end of the year. So we'll be covering hurricane awareness, tsunami awareness, disaster preparedness, hazardous materials, shelter in place, basic information that everyone needs in case we have some type of a disaster affecting us here. And we keep them down to one sheet so that it's very easy to understand, because something's happening, you don't have time to go through a whole booklet. Right? So that was the purpose of these materials here. Yeah, I think that's what I have for that right now.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cummings. AP, third question, please describe how your agency identifies and meets the needs of LEP communities in emergencies and/or disasters.
Okay, I'll go back to what Marsha said. During the emergency or disaster, it's not about a time that we exchange business card. Not just about time, we just learn about what you do and exchange information at a time. It's just about education, it's about outreach and prepare before this disaster coming into. So what we do, same thing like Marsha said, it's about how to outreach to the communities, how we get the word out, how we educate the people in the community. So first, I would say you need to know who the payer. You need to know how the immigrant work, how the LEP think. Let's say from the first panel that we hear, from Auntie Anita, she's not gonna hear from anyone except her family. So she's gonna go to the church. So we need to find out what is the place of gathering, how we can reaching out to them. Like say maybe another thing that we can say, maybe when Major Kaneshiro or send the officer there, maybe not in the uniform, because it could be the uniform is good intimidating. They may feel like an authority. That when we learn about the culture, when we learn about the outreach, that we go get information to them. And also, when we know the payer, now we need to listen what they need, what is actually that the best way to communicate. For example, I just came back from Hilo. I talking to people. They have a good plan. They have a lot of outreach material, but they have some group of population that they cannot even read it. When you have the grade 2, something that translated into their own languages. So, but it's useless when they come and they not be able to understand, not be able to read because of the literacy issue. So we as an agency, we have to look at that from that perspective. Listen to the community. Okay, they suggest me maybe you should recording something and then show, because now they can look it from the cell phone, they can look it from the computer instead of have written material or translated material, something that animate because it could catch their attention. So this is what I heard from the community. They want to hear something not too formal, something that easy to understand, easy for them to get the message. Yeah. So we have to understand that from that perspective. And also, another thing that when I see out there in the community, we listen to what the need. A lot of them, even for the agency, they say that, oh, we don't have enough resource. We don't have enough interpreter. We don't have enough translator for this area. So what we do so far, my office, we listen to that from perspective, and we looking the way how we can identify the need of the community to filling that gap. That's why me and Office of Equality from the judiciary, because they have a lot of training, not a lot of training. They have the training program for a court interpreter. And why it's very important? Because we have a lot of interpreters here in this room. We know that we cannot make a living just being an interpreter, because we don't have full-time job. We cannot be an interpreter full-time. So we need to have another job. We have to take assignment on certain time. And sometimes I understand that we don't want to invest or spend money to go to some class, make a commitment with no guarantee job. That's why my office, working with the judiciary, we make it affordable to everyone. Like everyone can register to attend and to go to the orientation. At least they don't understand what is the role of interpreter, what is the ethic issue, and to make sure during the emergency, everyone on the same page. Because we want qualified and quality interpreter. We just don't want anyone who just happen to speak languages and just helping you during the emergency. We need to make sure everyone have that at least qualification to be an interpreter. That's why when we coming in, we're stepping in. This program, I believe, it started with Dr. Commonwealth a couple of years ago, and I bring it back, and thank you for him for that idea. So now I'm working with judiciary to bridging the gap, to make sure that we have enough interpreter to meet the need of the agency, and also we have good quality and at least have some qualification to add on to make sure that not agency, they are qualified to take the job. Besides working with the judiciary, we also are working with the roadmap. Dr. Yoshimi here in this room, Dina here. So we're working with her because it's about education. We're working with about roadmap. We're working with the Department of Education because they have the program with the seal of biliteracy to make sure that people who graduate from high school, if they show that they're proficient in more than one language. It could be Hawaiian, English, it could be English or Ilocano. Because we want, that is our resource. They're here, they're there, they went to school here, so they're fluent in both English and also another languages. So we want to make sure they be able to use their skill and to fill in the gap, bridging the gap of the lack of interpreter in here, and try to keep them here, try to promote that there is a lot of opportunity for them to stay here and to be a good resort during the emergency. Okay.
Okay, thank you, AP. Major Kaneshiro, same question.
Normally during the time of a disaster, we rely on a lot of other outside entities to assist us. So for example, like we work closely with John Cummings and DEM, and because they have resources they can reach out to get to. So for example, when we had an incoming, a pending tsunami coming in, we had to clear the shorelines of, and this is another problem for us too, is getting to the homeless population because they don't, a lot of them don't have access to media, they don't have access to any kind of print, so how do you get to them? So that's why we had to rely on our officers. Even for the fire department, they had to go up and down the shoreline with their trucks and warn the people. So that's why we reach out to a lot of different entities to do that. And so in a time of disaster, we rely on a lot, and then with the social work that the city can provide, and I think, along with them, they have a core of people that they rely on too. And so we would send probably some of our police officers, like our community policing people, to help them do outreach in those areas. But that's another problem that in an emergency situation that we got to deal with. So that's another level that can be a whole nother topic of discussion. But that's another thing too. But but what it takes is a lot of coordination, a lot of partnerships, and like you were saying, like EP was saying, it's trying to get it beforehand. So at least we get that ahead of time. So at least we know each other. So when it comes time, I can just pick up the phone and I can just call, hey, Marcia, I need this, and she knows who I'm talking. She knows who she's talking to. So that's important. That's why it's, for us, the police department, one of our missions in our current administration, well, it's always been there, but even more so now, it's more community outreach with the different groups, and not just the traditional groups that we always worked with. It's getting to maybe even the faith-based organizations, because like we heard this morning, a lot of people would run to them because that's somebody that they trust, a trusted messenger. So now that's another thing we got to really focus on, is the trusted messenger person, because that can be a real challenge if you don't have that person. Here we come to your door telling you you gotta evacuate, and they're thinking that they're gonna take my house. That's why they're telling me to leave. I mean, because you have people that come from different countries where the government is corrupt, and that's what they do. They could show up at your doorstep, you tell them to get out, we're gonna take you home. That's what they think. And that's why it's a very important point that you brought up, having this trusted messenger saying that, no, they're here to actually help you because there's actual pending disaster coming in. So I think that's why, we're constantly working on improving that. And I think, this, with this, kind of like, kind of open our eyes a little bit more. I think, we were talking about it just now, and I think even with the fire, kind of open our eyes a little bit more. So, it's one definite thing to work toward. So, I think it's going to always be constant work, but in a disaster situation, it's what we have available to us, and that's why luckily we have a pretty good network so far, and we're just going to want to keep improving on that, and so just to make it better.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mura, why don't you add to that?
So for us, in emergency management, and I think I can speak for John and myself as well as Gerald, that in the event, when there's a disaster or an emergency, it's like drinking water from a fire hose. You're basically got more work to do and more activities. And so it's really hard to then be reaching out to the LEP community. So that's why we do it early. And we try to take those lessons pointed out to us and try to find ways to take care of those issues beforehand. So for example, Josie had told me years ago about how sometimes in the Chuukese community, because it's not, that's not the system they use maybe back in Chuuk, is, our siren notification system. So a lot of times our LEP population doesn't even know that there is a notification system. And so by getting the word out to, like working with Department of Education, asking them to notify the children of, with LEP parents as well as those children that are LEP, what the siren means is important. Because, right, we can do the best job of notifying people and sounding the siren, but if they don't know what that means and they don't know that they should be turning on the radio, then that's not going to help. Same thing, they don't know that KNDI can, put out messaging in Chuukese or in Ilocano. So it's important to do that. So one of the things we've done to make sure that the LEP population does get that information is to work with KREA, KZOO, and KNDI to make sure they have generators and also to give them our public messaging. So that's some of the things that we do during emergencies to make sure that the LEP population gets the message. So with your help, I think we can get the message out about our notification system and hopefully save lives and protect property.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mura. Mr. Cummings, you want to add to that?
Yes, we, as Marsha mentioned, we also work with Hawaii Emergency Management Agency to get our information out over KNDI. Been working with them for a very long time now, and they're really just the best people down there. They're the only, as far as I know, the only multilingual 24/7 broadcast station here in the state of Hawaii. And they have a pretty good broadcast power capability to reach their neighbor islands. So we work with them. During an event, we occasionally will get a phone call in from someone who doesn't speak English. We work with the bilingual access line in our office to take care of that. When we activate for major emergency, we have a group of call takers that come in, mostly secretaries and secretarial staff from our other departments, and they staff our call taking lines. And they also access bilingual access line too when we get folks that can't speak English. So as much as we tell folks not to call to ask questions, people are going to call, so we try to meet that need, right? It's just a way of life, right? Our language access plan, we looked at the demographics which are specific to Oahu, which helped us develop a guide to what languages we need to be addressing for our multilingual materials and brochures. And then getting back to our public education programs, I would like to be a lot more proactive in that. If any of you out there want to learn more about what we do or what our messages are, I'd be happy to have you come down to our office. We're open Monday through Friday, 11:45 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. And we can sit down and talk about how we can be a little more effective and in touch with your group, with your folks, within your community, because we need to do that. Now we have almost 1 million people here. Those folks whose English is a second language is a little bit smaller, but it's still some people we need to be talking to. If you can help us do that, magnify that message within your own community, I'd be happy to do that. And that's probably everybody on this table here right now. You're our residents, you're our families, you live here, and we need to do our best to make sure you have that emergency information. And when nothing's happening, just basic planning information. But we want to do that.
Okay, Mr. Cummings, thank you very much. That was the last question, but I really wanted to emphasize how important this panel was, not only to inform us what their role is, but as you heard, it's a real collaboration among us, the whole panel. They all know each other. It's like, hey, Marcia, hi, Gerald, that kind of thing. And that's what they were all talking about, and that's what the networking was about lunch, was to talk to people that you don't know. All of us have resources, and I think that was mentioned earlier, is that we all have resources. We all have strengths in all our departments. But what happens is that it can be better when we all work together, and we don't want to wait until a disaster emergency happens that we start calling, because then it's too late. But this is a really good example. The table is to say, we know each other, like Major Kanesho said, I can just call Marcia, hey, this is what's going on, how can you help? Oh, call this agency. So what we don't know, we, kind of add to each other. But that's why I kind of want to pose to you all is that how important it is. There's nothing on the bulletin board, but anyway, there were supposed to be things on the bulletin board and resources. So pass out your business cards, talk to each other, even if it's just, hey, I gotta go, but here's my business card, so that we all can connect. Invite yourselves to other people's meetings, like AP, so that we get to know each other and what each other does. I think we have time for a question or two. Is there any question?
Before we go to question, I just add one more thing if you don't mind. So during the last session, 2018 session, so me, because I believe that education and outreach is really important for us to go to reaching out to your community. So I present that to the LESH, and they give Ola 2 more positions, and 1 position is going to be outreach and training. So because I recognize the need of that, so we will have 1 full-time to do outreach and training to all the agency, at least learn more about what is Ola, what can we do, what can we offer to you guys, to every agency. It's just about resource sharing. It's just about increase your presence in the community. So like I say, get to know you, and you get to know us. So now if in the future, here it might be a good time if you want. For the past couple of weeks, I went to 7 training with people from different agencies, because now they just know, okay, it's about Ola, so we want to learn more. So I just want to give to use this as an opportunity to offer my services. Because like I say, our job, our responsibility, when they create a law, we provide technical assistance and coordinating. What can we do to provide you guys with tools and information to ensure meaningful access to our LEP population? Thank you. I just wanted to add to that.
Also, does anyone else, Marcia?
Yeah, I just wanted to also say, kind of like I think all of us want you to participate or be engaged in your own rescue, right? That's why we ask you to have 14 days of food, because government is not going to be able to get there if the roads are filled with debris. The police won't be able to get there if the 911 goes down because we're not, electricity goes out. We're all going to be in a world of hurt. And so, we want you to be safe. We want you to take care of yourselves. We want you to take care of your ohana. So please, be engaged in your own rescue. Think about like when you get on the plane and they ask you to put your mask on first before you help the person next to you. Please do that. And then also reach out to all of these LEP population people, because we cannot get there. There's only so many police officers. There's only so many staff in John's office and my office. We're not going to be able to reach all of the people of the state, the 1.4 million residents of the state. So with your help, I think we can get more people to participate and be engaged in their own rescue. So we really would appreciate if you could help magnify that message.
So did you want to add anything? No? Yes?
Oh, I guess. Yeah, it's the same thing Marcia was saying. We work with our community groups a lot. After we had 3 large tsunami events, one in 2010, 2011, 2012. And it really kind of lit the light bulb for a lot of folks that, these disasters are reality. We're on an island. We can get isolated very quickly. So we had a lot of community groups form up since then in Eva Beach, Kailua, Manoa, all over the place, that just realized that they need to help themselves. As Marcia said, if we get a Category 4 hurricane runs over this island, it's going to be a while before you see someone in Gerald's uniform there, before you see a firefighter. That's the reality of it. That's the reality of it. And when nothing is happening like right now, except for the conference, but is a time when you need to be engaging with your family and your friends and talking about what you're going to do. You know, we're asking folks to think about 14 days worth of supplies. That's a lot to ask, you know, but you don't want to be running out there and buying these things when the siren's going off. That's not preparation, that's desperation, that's not where you want to be. And what that means to each person is different. I'm sure that it's also different between cultures, you know. I worked on a Cyclone Val in American Samoa in 1990. We got down there and all the banana trees were gone. So FEMA thought, oh, bring rice in. That doesn't work in Samoa. That doesn't work. And they had to go out and buy cassava from all over the Pacific, you know. So it was little things like that. That's specific to your culture. But if that's what you need to get pie during that period after disaster, just like me and my sardines and Vienna sausage, you need to plan that for yourself. So if we can help you in that planning, that's what we want to do. Because we're all here together, right? I would love to see a CERT program done in Chuukese, in Pohnpeian, in Chinese. You know, with our help, we could do that. I'd like to see our community preparedness programs done in another language by someone in that language. I mean, I've done programs where I've talked and someone translated, but it's not the same as having someone from your community who understands it, trained it, and presents it. And, you know, we can be a part of that training process too. So again, that door is always open to anyone here who wants to be better prepared within their own community, no matter what the language or culture is. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cummings. Major Kaneshiro, I just had one more question for you in regards to your outreach, people out there. Is it that you're in certain areas, or are they requested to go to certain areas? Can you talk a little bit more about the outreach people?
Yeah, every patrol district has its unique, situation, and so that's why utilizing like the community policing officers, as a district major, you kind of see where the needs are, and because the patrol officers are tasked with the daily responding to cases, so they don't have the luxury of actually sitting down with like one of the kupunas and really connecting. Okay, what is it that you guys need? So that's where these guys come in. They have the time, they have the resources. If they need to go and reach back and get some, additional resources, that's what they do. And so that's why it's kind of like, that's where they fill our gaps, really into running a effective police department. These guys are the ones that's really outreaching, getting to the grassroots of the community, and this is what they need, and this is how the Honolulu Police Department can help service them the best way that that they need. So that's why they're very, their resource is valuable to patrol, to the whole department in general, because even in the communications area now, they bring to light some things that maybe we never thought of, and so that's why it came the text 911, came the smart 911. So those are the things that it all came because there's a need. We had to fill a need, and that's why it's a lot of these efforts that then that's how we're able to fill these needs. So that's why it's always an ongoing thing that we want to work with everyone, to see that how we can fill the needs, like what John said, but also to, knowing that we each have an individual responsibility to prepare ourselves as best as we can, because like for the police, we're not going to be, in the time of disaster, might not be able to get to you. Fire, I know fire for sure, might not be able to get to the people. So that's why that piece was very important, individual preparedness. And even us as officers, we always have to be mindful of ourselves to be prepared, so because we may not go home for several days, and so we have to prepare our families too. So that's why same thing, if you guys are out there, it's not only just yourself too, but make sure your family is prepared. So if they don't see you for like a day or two, can they survive, or can they be on their own? So that's another piece. So thank you for that. That was good.
Thank you very much. We have time for maybe one or two questions. So is there runners? Is there a mic? Where's Debbie? Oh, sorry. There's a mic right there.
Hi.
Thanks, panel. It's so great to know you all work together and the great things you're doing to prepare us. And I wanted to ask, is this Olelo filming us today? Or is this just y'all? Just Olo? Is this the Olelo channel filming us? Okay. Because Olelo also has, and it's on television, has programs, community outreach programs in every language I can think of, pretty much. And I can't think of them all. And I was just wondering if maybe, especially during hurricane season, maybe once a month you could get these different programs, Vietnamese, Chuukese, whatever, to do an emergency preparedness list, reminding people in their own language what to be prepared for. And thank you for everyone's mentioning we should have enough for 14 days, but what I've not heard anyone mention is not just food, not just water, but toilet paper, medicine and food and water for your pets. So all those things are important. And the year, was it 2013 when we thought 3 hurricanes were headed our way? We decided in our house we turned the linen closet into an emergency closet, and we just spent $20 every payday picking an item, buying an item, and in about a year and a half we have a very nice emergency closet. We were very well prepared. And then we can all look at what happened to Puerto Rico last year. We're in the same boat, and they're still not back to normal. And cash, small bills. Cash, because if the electricity goes out, the banks are closed, the ATMs are empty.
Thank you, and I think that's one of the things that was discussed in the previous panel, was that what are our individual plans? You know, not only as a community, but I think, John, you were also saying about that, you know, to help ourselves, and what are the things that we can do for ourselves. So that's a very good point. Is there any other questions for our panel?
My question is, you know, all the brochure in front of you, I wanted to know if you have a translate for Hawaiian.
You know, for us to do a translation, since we're, was it Title 6, you need to have a certified translator. So we couldn't find it. I wanted to do it in Hawaiian, and I couldn't find a certified translator with the 2 programs that we work with. So we were with Helping Hands first, and then JN Productions. So, but the other issue is now, since it's not one of the identified languages percentage-wise within the demographic, we probably wouldn't need one. So I've been bugging one of my good friends who's very good in the Hawaiian language to help me translate some of the materials.
Also about UH, I know my sister is working for UH in the Hawaiian.
So, so when we did our Make a Family Disaster Kit, which is also in coordination with all counties, we do have the Hawaiian translation for Make a Family Disaster Kit. And then our emergency terminology booklet also has it in Hawaiian. So we've been progressing and making those kinds of translations as we can. But we, you know, it has to do with, sometimes it's not that we're indifferent, we just have to find funding and time to get it done, and especially the correct person to do the translation, because Hawaiian language, like many other languages, is very nuanced, right? And so we want to make sure that when we do it correctly. Thank you.
And I just want to add on to that. Thank you for bringing that up. So like I said at the beginning, so it's about here, I want this forum to be the place that we can share the idea, we can see some connection. That's a good connection. So now I can work with John, work with Marsha, how to identify the need, because I might not know that you need certain type of brochure. So it's a good place that we exchange some information and some idea, and I'm more than happy to work with John and Marsha, try to meet the need of the community. Thank you for bringing that up.
Okay.
I just wanted to mention that the Honolulu.gov website, if you go to Honolulu.gov and you go to the top right-hand corner, I know it's a Google Translate, but it does have multiple languages that you can click on. Once you click on that language, you can go to any of the websites that they're talking about, the HPD website, you can go to DEM website, and it'll be translated to that language, and all the information on preparedness is there for you. So it's not perfect, but it is a start. Thanks.
Thank you. Besides your printed materials, which are accessible to that, some of you, I think, have developed a video Marcia had done that to our presentation to Catholic Charities. I think it is very important that maybe you have a video and then the different ethnic groups can translate the videos in their own language. Because not everybody gets your flyers, but a video could be shown with a group.
Hello, I wanted to understand like what were some of the lessons learned. Maybe, so an example I have, like during the missile alert time, I heard of, like my son was one of them, who was stranded on the bus. Were there lessons learned from different emergency disasters that we identified gaps, and what steps are being taken to help bridge those gaps, especially knowing that a lot of members of the LEP community use the public transportation system?
Well, that would be Department of Transportation Services from the city and county, but we know that the Department of Transportation Services has done a tremendous amount of work in terms of making sure that the LEP population understands how to evacuate from a bus. There's videos that they can download from the website, as well as they've given out a number of videos, CDs out to most of the community groups that I know of that are working with the LEP population. So those, and those videos are all, have interpreter speaking in that native language and providing that instruction, as well as they can see how to pop the windows out and evacuate from the bus. So there's a lot of that that is available by Department of Transportation Services. They're one of, I think, the top departments in the city and county that have really made the effort to reach out to the LEP population.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question.
Hi, thank you for being here today. It's good to see Marcia. I was just wondering, you've talked a lot about a language access plan. Is there a template that you can give out to agencies that they know what this looks like and the process, the things that you are expecting from a plan?
Okay, currently we don't have the template because each agency, each entity have different needs, the different population, how to identify. What we learned from the past, we used to have it on the website, and basically people just copy it, and it's not practical to their own office. But like I say here, we provide technical assistance. So if you want, we can just we have staff who help about compliance and working on the language access plan. We're more than happy to meet with your agency individually to see what your needs are, because the template, yeah, we don't have one because we want to make sure we want to make sure it applies to your agency, but we're more than happy to working with you. Yeah, but they have some toolkits that we can provide to you. We can post it on our website. That might be the good start, how you create the plan. And also, when I talk with the Department of Health and Human Services from the Region 9, or now it's Pacific Region, they give us some sample, but it's only applied to the people who are working in the health and human services area. But that's a good tool or a good sample that you can look at it, and I'm more than happy to share it with you guys. Just let me know. Thank you.
So again, I want to thank our panelists here for giving us so much information, and so thank you.
Thank you, government panel. Just to address the question of a sample language access plan, another resource is to look at lep.gov or Google Title II under Department of Justice. They as well have toolkits, self-assessment questionnaires, and things to get you started on how to build a language access plan for your organization. The judiciary had looked at that quite extensively and worked with Department of Justice. So we can also be a resource too if you're an organization that's looking for help. And we work closely with Office of Language Access as well and can help with providing samples and stuff. Okay, so we are at our afternoon break. While you take your 15-minute break, I want to remind you that evaluation forms are in your packet. If you could take a few moments to complete that so that you're not trying to do that very quickly at the very end when we're trying to collect them. And to encourage you to really give it some thought because they are looked at quite extensively and we do gather valuable information, the organization does, when we're planning for future conferences as well. In addition to that, we are still collecting connection cards, so if you need any additional cards, staff does have them available. And again, they're for purposes of announcing any events or resources or services that you want to share with each other, or the other purpose of getting connected with a particular individual or organization at this conference, and you have a specific need that you want to connect with them, so you can complete those connection cards as well.